Yeah, and ready to go. It's just preparing.
Council, ladies and gentlemen, staff, we'll call the meeting of February 19th to order. Thank you very much. It's nice to see that gallery is so full, and it's full for a very good reason. We look forward to presenting some acknowledgements to a couple of firefighters and administrators here. We're very pleased that Mike and Steve are with us. We'll begin this gathering by acknowledging that the land upon which we meet is a traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of southwest Middlesex. The nations along the banks of the Thames River include the Chippewas of the Thames, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We convey our respect to our First Nation neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, our community, our past, and partnerships in the future. Please note that this meeting will be recorded and on the Southwest Middlesex YouTube channel. Council, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councilor McGill, I believe you filed one. Did you file one, Mark?
I did, but we'd like a question, sure.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Any other council, any other conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on. The agenda has been circulated. The items are intact. There may have been an update on the bylaw, first and second reading. Perhaps that came in a little later, but the chair will entertain the recommendation that the regular agenda of council dated February 19th be accepted as presented. Is there a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Schultz. Councilor McCollum. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Acknowledgements. We are here tonight to congratulate Southwest Middlesex Fire Department Chief Mike Ross on his retirement from the Southwest Middlesex Fire and thank him for an unbelievable 47 years of service. Mike started his career in the fire service with the Warsville Fire Department in 1978. He was appointed to the position of Deputy Fire Chief from the Warsville Fire Department 25 years later, in 2003. When Warsville and Glencoe Fire Stations amalgamated to form Southwest Middlesex Fire Department in 2015, Mike was very much involved in that process. He has a long-standing career in the fire services. 1978 was his beginning, and he is in retirement in the year 2025. He was instrumental in the amalgamation of the two departments in 2015, as I previously have said. He played a key role in the design, the RFP process, and purchase of most of the current Southwest Middlesex fire apparatuses. He was instrumental in the implementation of Fire Pro 2 records management system and annual processing of the fire department payroll. He has been dedicated to improving firefighters' safety and professionalism and improving service to the community. This is a very well-deserved retirement, Mike, and I know that your adrenaline will still rush when you hear that siren. And I think as well as your retirement, it is also a retirement for your spouse, Jerry, as well. I know she worries about you every time that siren goes, and your family. So it's a great accomplishment, and we're extremely proud of you. And I will now hand this over to Chief Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I would, I can call Mike up, please. Mike, I'd like to say a few words. You're good for this. You're going to say a few words. Always get my notes. Mike Ross, as Chief of the Southwest Middlesex Fire Department. Thank you. I would like to congratulate Deputy Chief Ross on his retirement and thank him for his years of service. Deputy Chief Ross, congratulations on your retirement from the Southwest Middlesex Fire Department. I want to thank you for an extraordinary 47 years of service to the department and community. Being a volunteer firefighter is a huge commitment, and that kind of commitment and service to the community cannot happen without support of family. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank Mike's wife Gail and son Jake for their sacrifices they have made over the years in support of your position with fire services. Thank you. Mike, you can be extremely proud of your accomplishments over those 47 years. You have made many substantial contributions to the department and community safety during your time with Southwest Middlesex Fire. And the department has evolved into a more effective and professional service because of those contributions. We will miss you and wish you the very best as you move on to retirement and the next phase of your life. But as you exit the fire service, please rest assured that you have truly accomplished the standing mission of a firefighter by leaving the fire service better than you found it. Well done, and congratulations on your retirement, Deputy Chief. Yes.
Mike, we're delighted to get this certificate of appreciation. The certificate is proudly presented to Deputy Fire Chief Michael C. Ross for 47 years of service, 1978 to 2025, with the Warrensville District and Southwest Middlesex Fire Department. The Southwest Middlesex Fire Department and the municipality of Southwest Middlesex wish to express our sincere gratitude for your years of service and dedication to the protection of our community. The leadership and integrity you have displayed through your years of service are an inspiration to this department and this community. Thanks very much. I'll just set that. Yeah. Perhaps get a
You
photo.
hang on to it?
Yeah.
So one more thing, please accept this. Is as a token of our appreciation for your years of service, is a gift certificate for Warrensville Golf Course. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Yeah.
Good. You got our mic?
I do, thanks. Those of you that know me, but a lot here that don't know me, I've never been at a loss for words. So I just feel compelled to say a few things. As Chief Johnson and Mayor Mayhew have pointed out, I have been involved with a lot of significant things within the fire department here in Southwest Middlesex. And a lot of them provided some pretty substantial financial commitment on behalf of council. So one thing I do want to say to this council, I've not worked with a lot of you. Martin, I've worked with since inception, but this council, previous councils, I thank you all for the support that you give the fire department. The support the fire department receives from council is so instrumental, and just the fire department's in great shape right now. We have great leadership with Chief Ashton coming on, or Chief Johnson, where you go to AMO conferences and the first thing you hear about is the nightmare of firefighter certification. Southwest Middlesex is in great shape. We are in great shape moving into the future, and it's because of the support of council and the great leadership we have.
Good. Thanks very much, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, whether it's in business or the fire services, succession is an extremely important criteria so that things can go on into the future. And I think the next acknowledgement and recognition goes to Steve Ashton, our newly appointed Deputy Fire Chief. And Steve is part of that succession. We congratulate Deputy Fire Chief Steve Ashton on this accomplishment. Steve has had 22 years of service with the Southwest Middlesex Fire Department and has held the rank of District Chief, Glencoe Station, since 2022. He is a long-standing firefighter and officer with Southwest Middlesex Fire, with a demonstrated commitment to the protection of the community over the last 22 years. And he has proven that he is well suited for his new role as Deputy Chief. Stephen, your activities as a firefighter are exemplary, and your volunteerism in that position is outstanding. Congratulations on your appointment as Southwest Middlesex Deputy Fire Chief. And we're just absolutely delighted that you are taking this position. I'll pass it over to the Chief now.
Congratulations, Deputy Chief. I got a few words to say. So, I'm extremely pleased to announce that Steve Ashton has been appointed as the new Southwest Middlesex Deputy Fire Chief. As Mayor said, Steve has over 22 years of service with the Southwest Middlesex Fire Department and has spent the last 3 years in the role of District Chief of Glencoe Station. Steve has proven to be an extremely dedicated firefighter and officer during his years of service with the department and has done an outstanding job in his role as District Chief. Steve was instrumental in the continuous improvement of the department's professionalism, safety, and service to the public at the operations level, and has demonstrated that he is well suited for his new role as Southwest Middlesex Deputy Fire Chief. The department and the community is extremely fortunate to have such a qualified, capable, and dedicated individual as the fire department's second in command. Congratulations, Deputy Chief Ashton, and welcome to your new position. We're going to do a presentation here. Deputy Chief Ashton, please accept your new helmet, for your new position, new color dogs, and slip-ons.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, you want to talk? I'll move to the other side here for a photo op.
Photo of this. Yeah, we got to all suck it in.
We're good? Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're proud of you.
Thanks, Chief. Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
thank you,
my
council, for your time.
Pleasure. Council, we are at 4.2 on our agenda. Brian Kavanaugh, CMO, Principal, Infralevel Incorporated, is here to speak to us about the asset management plan and policy. Brian, staff will make sure you're comfortable there and you're mic'd. And we're set to go, and thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. I'm pleased to join you this evening to provide an overview of asset management and some of the work that we'll be doing in association with your staff over the next several months. So our agenda for this evening, we'll run through a definition of asset management. We'll cover Ontario Regulation 588-17 that governs this work. I'll run through the asset management plan scope of work that we'll be undertaking over the next few months. And then a review of the documents that will be reviewed as part of this work. We'll run through proposed levels of service, as well as the asset management policy, the project schedule, and finally, any questions. We should be done within a couple of hours.
Yeah, our bylaw says 10 minutes, so
I'll be brief.
no problem. We'll give you a few extra.
Move to the next slide, thank you. So the definition of asset management. It's a systematic process of managing your physical infrastructure and your assets. It includes planning, acquisition, operation, maintenance, and disposal of these assets to maximize their value over time, to ensure their longevity, and to provide efficient service to the community. So what we're trying to do through asset management is to maximize value, maximize longevity, as well as the services that you provide, all while minimizing the cost to residents, the risk to the infrastructure and the users, and to minimize the disruption to the community as well. Ontario Regulation 588-17 is essentially the rule book for asset management. It was put in place by the province in 2017. The main goals for the regulation are to provide sustainable asset management for municipalities, to provide accountability and transparency, to ensure that we're making data-driven decisions, to improve service delivery, and finally, for financial planning and risk management purposes. It's a relatively brief regulation. If you have a chance, I would recommend giving it a read. Ontario Reg 588-17 sets out a number of deliverables for all municipalities in Ontario. Beginning in 2019, that was the first year that an asset management plan, or rather an asset management policy, was required to be in place. This was followed in 2022 by the requirements for an asset management plan for core assets, those being your roads, water, wastewater, stormwater, and bridges and culverts. That was followed in 2024 with a requirement to round out the asset management plan to include all of your assets. So that would be adding things like buildings, fleet, IT, green assets. And finally, in 2025, the plan is required again to be expanded to include all assets as well as proposed levels of service and the financial requirements around those proposed levels of service. Importantly, this project that we're undertaking in the next few months will provide you with compliance with all of the above requirements. There are 7 main sections in an asset management plan, starting with the state of local infrastructure. Essentially, what do you own? What is it worth? What condition is it in? Followed by the levels of service, both current as well as proposed. The risk management, assessment, and strategy. The life cycle management strategy for all assets. We look at growth, the impacts of growth financially and on your infrastructure. A financial strategy that will optimize the benefits of your assets. And finally, advancing maturity. There's always more to do, always more to learn. And we'll be looking for recommendations that can be implemented to further advance the municipality's asset management program. Moving to municipal infrastructure, we're looking at all of your assets from roads, bridges, culverts, water, wastewater systems, stormwater, your machinery and equipment, your buildings, your fleet, your land improvements. Will also fit in your green assets under these categories as they fit best. I won't run through this in detail, but suffice it to say that asset management ties in a lot of your planning documents across the organization. We'll be reviewing all of this material and ensuring that this plan fits in with all of your other endeavors. A key component of the 2025 requirements of OREG 588-17 is the proposed levels of service. These levels of service are the target standards of performance for municipal services and infrastructure assets. They describe specific conditions or performance criteria that the municipality aims to provide to the residents, including things like the quality, the quantity, and the reliability of your services. A few examples would be looking at, for example, achieving a pavement condition index score of 70 or higher, maintaining bridges and culverts in fair condition or better, and finally completing condition assessments for buildings and for other assets. The goal for the proposed levels of service is to make recommendations that are affordable, achievable, and manageable. A quick look at your previous plan dated 2020. The total asset value at that time was $189 million. And obviously with the growth as well as inflation, that number will be significantly higher in 2025. Your annual infrastructure deficit at the time was $2.8 million. Your infrastructure needs being funded was at a level of about 35%. Your assets in fair condition or better was 75%, which is a pretty good number, and it leads me to think that the condition of your assets currently is quite good, that perhaps the underfunding has not yet caught up with the municipality. The recommended tax rate increase at the time was 1.8% per year. I mentioned the asset management policy, which also requires updating. That's on a 5-year cycle. The policy establishes a formal framework and guiding principles for how a municipality manages its public assets. It provides clarity on such things as your objectives, your priorities, and responsibilities. The scope of work that we'll undertake to update your asset management policy includes adding industry best practices, comparing against similar municipalities, and finally addressing any gaps in compliance as we compare your policy to the requirements of the regulation. Our project schedule for the next few months. We are here this evening, February 19th, for the council information session. That will be followed by monthly updates to staff from February through to May. We plan to have a draft asset management plan and asset management policy delivered to your staff in May, followed by a presentation of this report to council. That would be either in late May or early June. And finally, the final report posted to your website in June, which would provide you with compliance based on the required date of July 1st, 2025. In relation to that compliance, of course, is the ability to be fully eligible for provincial grants. Appreciate your time this evening. I'm happy to take any questions.
Brian, thank you very much for that. You phrased that very, very well. I'm sure council will have some questions. Perhaps I can start it off, Brian. This is all encompassing. I'm sure you're looking at gravel roads as well as paved roads. And sidewalks are in the criteria as well. Is that correct?
Yes, all of your assets, the various assets that fit within transportation, be it sidewalks, multi-use paths, roadways, paved or otherwise, streetlights, etc.
That's good. So it's quite broad in what it encompasses. Council, it's open for questions. Yep, go ahead, Councilor Bing.
Thank you, Mayor. To Brian, will you be providing any figures, for instance, what is needed for water in the future, or wastewater, or that sort of thing?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Bink, we will be assessing your water and wastewater system requirements for the long term. We'll be looking at rate requirements and making recommendations for what an appropriate rate increase would be over time, with the goal of managing those infrastructure assets in a state of good condition to provide good service to your residents.
Any further questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
So as of June of 2025, we'll be completely up to date on this.
That is correct. So you'll have full compliance with the regulation.
Perfect. And when would it need to be renewed again?
The current cycle is a 5-year cycle, so you'd be looking at 2030. There are also annual requirements that staff need to report back on the status and progress made.
Brian, if I could ask just another question here. The current software that we have, a small municipality, we spend over $100,000 a year on software. Are there expenses in that, or the software that we currently have, will it handle this?
We'll be looking to do work that is compatible with your software. We will support the updating of your software to keep it current and useful and to maintain the benefits of that investment. So I want to make sure that the work that I'm doing fits not just for July 1st compliance, but will also be a benefit going forward.
And my last question, and I think it's for the benefit of the gallery as well. The importance of this is that if we are to get future funding from the province and the federal government, we need an up-to-date asset management footprint. And this opens the door for better funding initiatives. That's correct? That's not just rumor or speculation, but it is in fact going to be a requirement of higher levels of government?
It's absolutely a requirement for funding. I think that it's also important to note that having a current value for your assets can be helpful for the grants that you receive. So in your ability to provide up-to-date information to senior levels of government, that may lead to increases in your granting amounts.
Okay, well, thank you. Any further questions? Well, I want to thank you very much for your presentation. Again, very enjoyable, and we look forward to seeing the outcome of this, and we wish you well, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, there's a recommendation before you that the presentation be received for information. This is always good because it puts it on our minutes, and we can access it as we go forward. Is there a motion to that effect? Received for information, thank you. Councilman Collin, Councilor Link. All in favor? Council, the consent agenda is before you. I'll go through them. If there's anything here you want to pull out, we can, if it's inquiry or lighthearted, we can deal with it immediately. If it's more complex, we'll deal with it in new business. Draft minutes of the regular meeting of council dated February 5th, 2025. Draft minutes of the Recreation Committee meeting, February 4th, 2025. Approved minutes of Brook Allenson Fire Committee meeting, August 27th, 2024. Draft minutes of the Four Counties Transportation Services Committee meeting, January 27th, 2025. Middlesex County highlights, February 11th, 2025. Middlesex London Health Unit, monthly Board of Health update, January 2025. And Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, resolution EOWC, support of Canadian and Ontario governments negotiations with the United States government on trade tariffs. Yes, Councilor McGill.
Yeah, Mayor Mayhew, I'd like us to support that resolution to back the provincial and federal government in their negotiations with the U.S. with their tariffs.
Okay. Well, you'll entertain that as a motion. Is there a second for that motion? Deputy Mayor Schultz, discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Okay, we're into public meetings. 7.1, the meeting to consider the ED Drain Grants D 2024. Andrew, do you want to walk us through this? I missed Committee of Adjustment, you're right. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. Committee of Adjustment, another computer. Recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Southwest Middlesex enter the Committee of Adjustment, and we will enter this at 6:30. Is there a mover for that, please? Yeah, Councilor Myers, Deputy Mayor Schuldice, all in favor? Carried. We will call the meeting to order. Committee, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none. The minutes have been circulated of the January 15th meeting. Are there any errors or corrections? The recommendation is that the minutes be accepted and circulated. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councilor Myers, Councilor Vink, all in favor? Carried. Committee of Adjustment, request to amend conditions of consent application 7/2024, submitted by Thomas Field, 3264 Oilfield Drive. Could our planner walk us through this, please?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So application for consent B7-2024, which sought to sever a dwelling surplus to the needs of a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, was conditionally approved by the committee on April 17, 2024. And as part of this approval, the applicant was provided with a list of conditions that are to be satisfied within 2 years of the date of the notice of decision. So since the time that this application was conditionally approved, a new well has been drilled beside the existing barn, as the applicant was hoping to have a new well drilled on the severed lands. A condition currently speaks to a well being located on the severed lands, or a well easement would be required to be established. So as part of the original application, the barn was intended to be located on the retained lands, being the farmland, and the applicant has now submitted a request to amend the conditions of consent. So condition 7 indicates if the barn is to be located on the retained lands, any hydro connections be disconnected, and as the applicant would like to retain the barn on the severed lands, it has been requested that this condition be removed, and it's also been requested that condition 8 be amended. So condition 8 indicates if the barn is to be located on the retained lands, all stalls and cages and water services be disconnected, and the applicant is requesting that condition 8 be amended to require a change of use permit for the barn, since it would have been a requirement if the barn was to be kept with the severed lands originally. So at this time, the applicant has submitted a formal request to amend the list of conditions with specific regard to retaining the barn on the severed lands due to the location of the new well, and also to reorient the lot lines of the severed lot. So the applicant is seeking to have the new well contained on the lands to be severed rather than establish a well easement. And due to the location of the well, the applicant is seeking to also retain the barn. Given the approved maximum lot size of 2 acres, the applicant has proposed the irregular lot shape to meet the size requirement while avoiding land and agricultural production. So while staff are generally supportive of the protection of agricultural lands, the irregular lot is undesirable from a planning perspective. Staff believe the proposed lot shape may present encroachment challenges with distinguishing lot lines in the future, particularly in a situation where the existing barn is removed from the property. And should this lot configuration be approved, it may result in a request for a boundary adjustment in the future to regularize the lot lines. So staff believe the existing conditions address the well appropriately through requiring a well easement if the well cannot be located on the severed lands, and the existing conditions would result in a regular shaped lot with the barn located on the retained lands. So based on the foregoing, staff does not support the request to amend the conditions or the new lot configuration. So in regards to agency comments received, the comments were received from the Public Works Manager, the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, the Deputy Chief Building Official, and the County Engineer, and no concerns were identified, and no comments have been received to date from members of the public. So staff recommend that this report be received for information, and that the request to amend conditions of consent, which propose to remove condition 7 and amend condition 8, be refused. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And the applicant is present. Tom, would you like to enlighten council a bit on your viewpoint on this?
Yes, I have some updated photographs here. showing the proposed amended lot size. I'll hand out to everyone first. Yeah, so it was our, originally our severance included a well that was located at the back of the farm, 1,400 feet back. We're going to take an easement to get to it, which would be very disruptive in the future if we have to do repairs or maintenance on the well over that huge distance. So this summer we did drill several wells, attempted, and we just got a dry hole on our original lot that we had proposed to sever. Subsequent to that, we drilled another well approximately 100 feet back from the northwesterly lot line, and we received a good well there. This time, it would make sense to have the well included on the lot line, up on the lot outline. And at that time, this fall, we sent a letter to the county of Middlesex, and they're received on December the 20th from David Samuels, Director of Legal Services, saying that there's two options available to the client. We could put in a new application if we want to expand the size of the lot beyond 2 acres, or we could reconfigure the lot shape to include the well while remaining within the 2 acre limit. Our revised plan we have there now comes in at approximately 1.84, 1.85 acres. So we are under the 2 acres as requested. And he goes on to say, the second approach would resolve the issues while adhering with the existing decision and planning policies. So if anyone has any questions, I would take them, but we would look to see that we could enlarge our, reconfigure our shape of our lot to include the well. I know there is other irregular shaped lots around the countryside. It's not always possible to make them exactly a nice square or a rectangle. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Council, we're in a position now where we can ask our planner questions or ask Tom questions. And I'll open it up to the horseshoe. Your questions will be directed to the chair and identify whom you're asking that question to. Are there any? Yes, Mark, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. To Tom, how deep is the well?
It is about 100 feet deep, 95 I think is the level. That's where we kind of hit bedrock in our area.
Right. So it would be quite a bit of work if you had to do some work on the well. It'd be a bit of an undertaking.
It is, and it's always beneficial if we can easily access it in an emergency or without having to contact whoever the owner may be in the future time to get permission and notify them that we're going on. But this way we do not have to travel through any planted crops in the summer, and is easily accessible from our house and building site.
Any further questions, council? The chair would like to ask one Tom, if I could. If this is a Google image, can I take it that land, the pathway to that well, there seems to be some undergrowth or something around that. Is it farmable, that piece of land? Is it cropped?
It hasn't been cropped. It's not tile drained, and there is some brush and an old pond in behind there as well. So that's why that area hasn't been farmed in the past. And we have narrowed in our lot line a little bit to incorporate the barn and the well, which is in the corner as labeled. And we are not taking any land out of production. We're not looking to expand into work ground. It's just all ground that hasn't been farmed down for 50 years.
Yeah, and In my homework, when I reviewed this, I noticed that you put hydro in that barn, is that correct?
This barn, the hydro has all been disconnected, water's disconnected. There's no access or no, nothing in it for livestock. It is strictly for storage of equipment, farm equipment and other odds and ends that we have that goes
So
with
you
it.
met the conditions there?
Yes.
then?
We have done that.
All right, council, any further questions? Alana, any further remarks? Okay. Council, what's your wish? Councilor Hagan?
I'll move to support Tom's.
West? Okay.
Yeah.
Martin, I saw you did your hand up. Did you second that?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Mayor.
Discussion, council? All in favor? Motion's carried unanimously.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, again, I remind council and our gallery that Alana is an extremely good planner. She has rules and regulations to follow, and she must abide by those. And council does make the decisions in this municipality, but we rely very heavily on the advice of staff. And we're delighted to have Alana with us, and she's got a pile of work to do, and it's just a little different vision, but it's not unprecedented that council will overrule a planner occasionally. And we want what's best for the municipality, and I think in this case, I think it'll work. And at the same time, we certainly respect Alana's opinion as well. Okay, we'll move on. Future meetings. Staff will advise you of that. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn at 6:42. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councilor McGill, Councilor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. Andrew, I see you. You're going to have to take your head off your arm there. Get to work, eh? Meeting to consider the Edie drain, branch D, 2024, and following that, the Keith Cameron drain, 2024. You can begin.
Just briefly, both of these projects were initiated by requests submitted by property owners within the watershed and within the confines of Section 78 of the Drainage Act. And the engineer from Spring Associates is present, George, and I will give it to him at this point.
Okay. George, how are you?
Well, thank you, Your Worship. We were pleased to present our report today on the Edie Drain Branch D. I'll start off with that before Keith Cameron. This is a report under Section 78, so a request for improvement of an existing drain. The existing drain here was built in 1979, so almost as long as our deputy chief's a career here. So it was getting to be of an age, and it was in a state of disrepair and also not providing adequate depth for the upstream owners. So there was a request here to improve. We did have an informal meeting with the landowners to review the proposal and receive some feedback, so that's been considered. And so we are going to replace the existing drain here with approximately 540 meters of 12-inch to 18-inch tile there, so that's 300 millimeter to 450 millimeter. This is purely an agricultural drain. It's designed to a 38 millimeter coefficient or 1.5 inches of rain for 24 hours, which is the current macro standard. The total estimated cost of this project is $90,100, and if there's any questions on this project, I welcome them now. Thank you.
Okay, council, the invitation's been extended. Are there any questions? Following, yes, I thought I saw your hand there, Councilor Gill. Then the chair will entertain a motion to accept the report for information and agree with that. Is there a mover and a second? On the left, Councilor Gill, Councilor McCall. Okay. And that'll be first and second reading, bylaw reading as well, and that will be approved. Okay. Thanks very much. All in favor? It was Councillor McGill and Councillor McCollum.
Thank
And we'll do the key camera drain. George, you ready for that?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. We were pleased to present a report on the Keith Camera Drain 2024. This was a request under Section 4 of the Drainage Act, so a request for a new drain, and it was signed by a landowner who owns 60% of the area requiring drainage. This is located on Centerville Drive, just east of Old Airport Road. There was a landowner there who did not have a proper subsurface outlet, so they've requested one. Relatively simple project here. It's approximately 267 meters in length and includes 12-inch to 15-inch tile. It's an agricultural design to 38 millimeters, so an inch and a half for 24 hours. And it includes one crossing of Centerville Road. The estimated cost of this project is approximately $62,300. And if there's any questions through you, I would welcome them. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, Council? And Council will, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the report by Street and Associates and approve the necessary bylaws. Councillor Mink, is there a seconder? Councillor Myers, questions? Oh, yep.
Thank you. It's just that the landowners here, and I wondered if George would mind just giving us a timeline on when you see this drain being completed.
Absolutely, thank you. We still have to go through what's called quarter revision, which would typically be 28 days after this. At that point, we can start working towards our final appeal periods. If there's no appeals, we could be looking at tendering this in about approximately a month, and then awarding a tender in approximately 2 months from now. At that point, it just depends what they tender. As contractors, we typically don't impose deadlines to try to get the best price for the landowners. I would anticipate right now we're seeing a lot of tenders in that 3 to 6 month range. So with the 2 months to get through that tendering process, plus another 3 to 6 months, so somewhere in that 5 to 8 month range would be my best guess. But there may be a position where someone tenders at a later date with a cheaper price, and council may have to consider if they wish to take a earlier date or a cheaper price in that situation.
Okay, thank you, George. Any further questions? The chair has the privilege of recognizing who they want to speak. And there is a hand in the back, and please stand up. Could you please state your name?
Harry Burma,
Okay.
and the property I represent is the numbered one, also on that property, a neighboring property, and I've been assessed, and I understand that because the land flows to there, but I don't have an outlet to that drain, so I'm 1,000 feet away from, I'm 1,000 feet away from the outlet through the neighbor's property. So I'm assessed $2,500, and I get where that concept comes from, but I have no way of putting water in that drain.
Okay.
So I can, in other words, I'm content in a sense if I have an understanding from, if the landowner is planning on draining it, I presume. So if he's draining it, if I don't mind paying, because it's going to cost, if we put it as part of the tender or part of the project, the engineered project, it's going to cost a lot more to put the 1,000 feet of extra drain to my property line. But if I don't mind, that's going to cost me more than just getting, if the landowner drains the property, I don't mind paying the contractor to get water to my property. If you understand what I'm trying to say here.
And we'll let George comment on that.
Thank you, Your Worship. So there is no proposal to go to your property as this. To go to your property and extend that drain, we would need a petition from your property. Your property has not been assessed any benefit in this report. So there's 2 ways we assess reports. Their benefit and outlet. Benefit is something you can connect to, something you can help put your own tiling into. Outlet is for its outlet liability, so it's a contribution towards the cost of a project based on the water you're contributing towards it. To talk about cost, I would defer that to the quarter revision, which is the next meeting. I will meet with you after this meeting here and review how this is calculated and just explain this to you. As far as draining your own water, you would have two options in the future. The tiles, the first 800 feet is done. If you want to get it up to your property line, you would either need to make an agreement with your neighbor to get a tile up to your property, or you have to petition through the act to extend that to your property. So those would be your two options to get an outlet. Your neighbor is not obligated to tile or do anything for you as part of this report, but there is capacity within that tile for your property if you want to connect to that in the future. So I would recommend you talk with your neighbor and try to see if they are tiling to run a couple tiles to you and make an
And I
agreement with them.
legally can hook into it then.
That's correct.
Okay, so I didn't want to, I thought it was best to bring it up at this time, because if I'm legally excluded, then that's not, I would like, as long as I can make an arrangement with him, then that works. But I was concerned because the outlet doesn't reach my property the way it's set up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, George, I might add that if in the event you wish to use my office for a chat, it's just out the door, right across. Just feel free to meet the gentleman in my office. It's open for you, okay?
Excellent, thank you.
All right. Recommendation on this one. Okay, yeah. Martin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like a little clarification on that, because I'm looking at the map, and you're looking for further drainage as well. So, Mr. Verma's property is to the side, he doesn't have an outlet, and I'm not sure what George is saying. Let's say Harry wants to hook up, and the drain might not be on the edge of the property, it might be in the middle of the property, and I think Harry mentioned that would be 1,000 feet. So would there not be an extra cost to that in order to go to that drain?
George, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bink. I apologize, I did miss the first part of that question, but I did catch the second half. Yes, there certainly will be a cost to bring that outlet up to that property. That outlet is located 1,000 feet away.
Right.
That's, like I said, it's a relatively small area, so if the landowner has a tiler on site, it would be quite economical to install, say a 6-inch tile with a drainage plow that's already on site. Certainly more economical than buying a legal right away through the Municipal Drainage Act rate, because part of a drainage report is to secure a legal right of way, which has a precedence under the Drainage Act, and that has a cost associated with the owner receiving essentially an allowance for that existing on the property. So if an agreement can be made, it certainly would be more economical. If there is a petition, we can certainly extend it through the Drainage Act, and that does happen on times when neighbors cannot agree, but I certainly encourage people to try to work together to save costs for everybody.
Okay. Any further questions? Council, public have been duly informed of this. We will receive this report for information, and there's bylaws required in this as well, and the adoption of the necessary bylaws to bring it forward. And we look forward to George to meet you at the quarter revision.
Thank you, George.
Is there a mover and a seconder for this? Councilman Collin?
Lincoln Myers, I think, first and second.
Oh, I did? All right. Yep. All in favor? This is carried. Okay, George, we're pretty well done here.
Yes, thank you, George.
Okay, thank you very much, and if you need my office, go ahead and use it. If the phone rings, you can answer it. All righty, council, we're on 7.3, zoning bylaw amendments. Submitted by Lou Rule on behalf of the London Presbyterian Church on Main Street. We're well aware of it. And of course, the clergy was behind the Presbyterian Church. planner's gonna take us through this? Okay, go ahead, Alana. Oh, is that all right?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the only rezoning application that we have before council this evening is for P2 2025. And again, this is for 177 Main Street in Glencoe. There's also frontage on Victoria Street. Council will be fairly familiar with this property. It recently underwent a consent application to sever the residential portion of the property and to separate the existing church and the associated parking lot as well. So the purpose of this application is to rezone this green hatched area on my location map that I am sharing. I know there's a lot of lines on here. Hopefully they make sense. The outlined red portion is the residential lot that is being severed. And the outlined yellow portion is the Glencoe Presbyterian Church. This pink line actually represents the existing zoning line, which separates the R1 zone from the institutional zone. So as council can see, the parking lot itself is not actually zoned appropriately for the institutional use. It's rezoned for residential. So the application was brought forward to council in, what was the date here? Sometime last year, and it was approved with the condition that the rezoning of the parking lot be done. So the application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. I did not receive any comments or concerns by either internal departments, agencies, or the public. The application itself is deemed appropriate by planning staff, given the residential and institutional uses are being separated. So it is prudent to ensure that the church parking lot is entirely zoned institutional rather than the residential portion. And then this approval of the rezoning this evening would satisfy condition number 5 of the previous consent. So in regards to the county and local official plan, institutional uses are permitted in the downtown core, which is the designation of the church property. And it does permit institutional uses such as churches, as well as their accessory uses being a parking lot and such. There's no zoning deficiencies that are being created through the rezoning application. So my recommendation this evening is that the rezoning be approved. I have also drafted a zoning bylaw for council's consideration this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The applicant is present. Lou, thank you for coming. Any words you wish to express to council or the planner?
No, as far as I'm concerned, this is our last requirement, so.
Okay, that's good. You've gone through the hoops, eh? Okay.
That's why I can hardly walk, but anyway.
I bet. Council, the recommendation is before you. I'll just give you a minute to peruse it. Following which I'll take a mover and seconder for the recommendation. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'll approve the application for the rezoning.
Okay, and a second for that, please. Okay. Moved by Councilor Myers. All in favor? Question? Carried. Mark, you're back to the table. Staff reports, 8-1, Chief Administrative Officer, none. I'm not going to tell you Amanda's got a holiday here. She's watching over the whole proceedings. 8-2, Clerk, Council vacancy. Would you like to walk Council through this? Oh, is it you?
Through you, Mayor, in Kendra's absence this evening, I'll be speaking to the clerk's reports to hopefully answer any questions that council has. Before you is a report prepared by Kendra, our clerk, regarding the recent declaration of a vacancy for the Ward 3, one of the Ward 3 council seats. As you know, this seat was declared vacant at our previous meeting on February 5th. In follow-up, this report is provided to council to outline the methods that are available to council under the Municipal Act to fill the vacancy. And all the options are outlined in the report for council's consideration. Just briefly, I will review it. The first option, option known as option 1 in the report, is to appoint an elector who received the most votes in the 2022 municipal election but was not elected. So council could select the next person with the most votes, and what the clerk would undertake a process to ensure their willingness and also their qualifications to be a municipal councillor are still valid, and a future report would come back to council if that option was selected. Option 2 is that council may select to appoint a person by call for applications and then a selection process. So essentially, we would put out a public notice, solicit applications from the community, and council would select amongst those applicants the councillor to be appointed to the vacant seat. The third option is a direct appointment. So council does, under the Municipal Act, have the ability and authority to select any individual that meets the requirements of being a councillor in the municipality and seek to appoint them. Again, they would need to be verified as willing and also eligible under the Municipal Act to be appointed, but council could also do that direct appointment. And option 4 is a by-election. So in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act, what that would look like, it would need to use the same method of voting as the regular election in 2022, which I do believe was electronic voting. Yes, thank you. And so we would need to make those arrangements. And while that does allow for the direct Ward 3 to conduct the voting, it does, there are some additional costs associated with that method, which have not yet been quantified, but something, if that was something council wanted to explore, we would do so. Following the outline of 3 options, or 4 options, there are the applicable resolutions listed in the report for council's consideration. And based on the discussion and the consensus, council could choose one of those recommendations to be approved. I will note that there is a timeline in place. So from the date that the seat is declared vacant, which was February 5th, there are 60 days for the vacancy to be filled. So that's something to consider when you're making your decision. If we do need to schedule a special council meeting to, for example, review applications of solicited applications, for example, that's something we would do to ensure that we meet that municipal act timeline. So happy to answer any questions.
I could start it off, council. Thank you for the privilege. Amanda, if we chose to accept applications on this and council reviewed them, the third name on the ballot in the last election, that's permitted to put forth in an application as well?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, absolutely. So the application process would be eligible to anyone in the community, including those who ran in the last election.
So the opportunity does exist for that individual to apply. That's great.
Yes.
Okay. Council, any further questions? Yep. Councilor Hager.
So if you went the option to take the next highest vote getter, and they decline, can we go straight into the application? Or do we have to, if you went that way, do you have to put it in a motion? Put the applications out there?
That's a great question through you, Mayor. Because of the timeline consideration, my suggestion to council would be that, yes, the resolution approved by council should include that kind of direction. So if the first wish, is to pursue option, whatever number, direct appointment of the next person in the ward or in the next person with the most votes, and then if they were not willing or deemed eligible, so that the eligibility criteria is as important as the willingness, then staff be directed to immediately pursue the application process. And because of the timelines, that dual resolution of council would ensure that we could get that application application process started without calling a special meeting, getting the formal direction from council, so it would just expedite the next steps if you thought that might be something you would want to pursue after.
Council, three options are ahead of us. We take the runner-up, we apply, put the word out for applications, or we appoint. What is council's wish? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. If you just for clarification on what Jody had mentioned, so we could approach the person that finished third in Ward 3, and if they're not interested, then we would move directly to applications. Am I understanding that correct?
I'm just reading it here.
Have to read the rules.
So, thank you, Deputy Mayor, through you, Mayor. I believe so, yes. So if they were not, I believe it would first automatically go to the individual in Ward 3, who was not elected. But there is also, it was gray in the municipal act about whether the individual with the most votes from another ward could also be selected. So we did not seek a legal opinion on that. You'll see in the report, it's just noted who received the most votes in Ward 3 and then also in entirety of the election. So council could direct us certainly to investigate that portion as well.
Deputy Mayor, one follow-up relative to.
Okay, I'll move that we take that option and that we approach the person that finished third in Ward 3. So that the seat is held by a Ward 3 resident. And then if they refuse, move directly to applications.
I'll ask for a seconder and then I'll get back to the questions. Okay, Councillor Hagan. You'll second that? Yep. Councillor Myers, you okay?
I'm good.
Okay, that's good. All right, any questions? Yes, Councillor Bain.
Yes, well, I've been on council for a while, and we've had this situation 2 previous times. Both times, we had applications. I think that's the fairest way. The one occasion, the person was from a different ward. And so to treat everybody the same way, and you're not getting into gray areas, I feel that's the fairest way, is to have an application process.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Yep. Well, there's a motion already on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're taking questions too?
Yep, we will. Yep. Okay, as long as council know, we'll get clarity, we'll have that, before we vote, we'll have that motion read back. Councillor Hagan, go ahead.
Well, I remember that, and I remember people from my ward applying, and they didn't take it. So I have to disagree with you, because you went outside the ward and let our ward with one representative. So, and were you on council then?
That's all, and I voted for a person named Michael.
Well, I'm just saying, so
And when you said you,
have somebody in the ward, it's in your ward, is what I'm saying. The applications, and now we can just pick whatever we want, I guess. I didn't think it was fair at the time for this ward, so I don't think it's fair for you. If somebody interested in coming, to give an opportunity. That's all I have to say, thank you.
You want to reread the motion? Is it possible to reread it, the first option?
We'll give it a try here. The first option would read that the Council of the Municipality of Southwest Middlesex received the report dated February 19, 2025, prepared by the Manager of Legislative Services Clerk titled Council Vacancy Ward 3 for information, and the Council resolves that option 1, appoint a qualified elector who received the most votes in the 2022 municipal election in Ward 3, but was not elected to be utilized as the method to fill the vacant seat, and that if that method is not successful, the clerk be directed to solicit to engage in a direct application, public application process. And that the clerk be directed to report back to council on the March 5th meeting of the results of the conversation with the Ward 3 council potential person, and further that that's my summary, sorry.
Well, that's good. Councillor Haggett, I see where you're coming from on those comments, and if in the event the candidate in Ward 3 that did not retain a seat on council, if they refuse, we'll have lots of opportunity to go through those applications, and you can, if you have favoritism, like applicant in Ward 3, you're certainly entitled to suggest that. So you'll have an opportunity to express those opinions if that person doesn't take them. Okay, any other questions? Councilor Bank.
I just want to reiterate what the CEO Amanda mentioned. It's not clear in there. We could run into problems with the person that got the most votes that they weren't appointed. So I just want everyone to realize that.
Well,
anybody from Southwest Middlesex can run in any ward. And we're one municipality.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Chair's going to call the question. All in favor, please raise your hand. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed. 2, 3. Motion is carried. Okay. I think I got my count right there, remember?
Yes.
Okay. And then, Amanda, if you'd like to walk us through the subject of the animal control request for proposal for RFP results.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Firstly, I'd just like to invite and acknowledge Josh White. He's the procurement manager of the county of Middlesex, and he does have a memo attached to the staff report, which I'll ask him to speak to after my introductory remarks. So before you is a report providing an update on the RFP that was issued for animal control services. As you know, our contract with London Middlesex Humane Society was set to expire late last year, and in partnership with the County of Middlesex, we did undertake a request for proposal process. The memo that was provided by Josh, and which he will highlight for us, does outline the administrative process that was undertaken. One thing I want to highlight that as a result of the RFP, actually, I'll maybe defer to Josh first to present the administrative process, and then we'll go to the staff recommendation, if that's all right, Mayor.
Josh, thank you very much. There's a button on the side and then also a button on the face. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Good to have you.
Good evening to the Mayor and Council. Just really quickly, because other than Mayor and you, I don't believe I met any member of the council yet. My name is Josh White, as Amanda mentioned. I'm the Food Services Manager at the County of Middlesex. At a very high level, my department assists the county as well as some of its lower tier municipalities through the procurement process to hopefully achieve best value for taxpayer dollars, as well as to mitigate risk through applicable legislation, trade agreements, legal precedent, as well as assist through a fair and transparent procurement process. In spirit of that, my department assisted the municipality's CAO and clerk in developing and managing a request for proposal for our process for animal control services. As you can see in my memo that accompanied the report, it's been a bit of a journey to get to this point. With the original RFP that closed back in December, one of the interested parties attempted to submit, but ultimately missed the submission deadline. The other proposal that was received was missing a mandatory submission requirement, which left us in a position where we had no compliant proposals. In accordance with the municipality's purchasing policy, we then allowed both interested parties, the Humane Society of London Middlesex, which was the incumbent, and Southwest Middlesex Animal Shelter to resubmit proposals based on the original RFP's requirements and specifications which both submitted. Evaluations were completed by both the municipality's CAO and clerk, as well as the county's procurement officer who reports to himself as an objective for third party.
Results were not favorable for numerous reasons. All evaluators felt that both proposals did not instill confidence to the point where any of them felt comfortable onboarding the RFP. From a policy compliance perspective, if this isn't awarded at this time, and given that there was 2 unsuccessful attempts to solicit proposals, the municipality can proceed in either one of the ways that was mentioned in my memo. Direct negotiations with a specific vendor, reissuing the RFP with sealed back services, or something in the middle. At this time, I know staff has investigated potential alternative options, which they have presented in the report, and I will pass it over to the CAO, but if council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Thank you. I think we'll let Amanda speak first, and then we'll open up to questions.
Thank you, through you. Thanks, George, for that. Following the RFP process that Josh has outlined and the process undertaken, we have done some additional research on alternate options. So, we're not the only municipality who have had challenges finding a complete service. And what we've seen as a market trend is a lot of municipalities separating services to have a portion from one provider and a portion from another, or what we call what we've termed as a pay-as-you-go model for animal control services. And what that would be is a similar level of service through a vendor or a combination of vendors, but it would be a pay per use. So every time an animal is picked up, we would be charged X amount. Every time there's a vet, X amount. What we've seen, and we have seen 2 of the larger municipalities in Middlesex County move towards that pay-as-you-go model. Both Thames Centre and Middlesex Centre use that model. And in so doing, in making the shift to that pay-as-you-go model, each municipality saved 50% of the cost of their former animal control services. So we all know Middlesex Centre is a much larger municipality than Southwest Middlesex, but they pay 50% of the cost that Southwest Middlesex does for animal control services with our existing vendor. So while we have not investigated in detail, we do believe that there may be an option for cost savings if we were to investigate further an alternate model. And there's also nothing precluding the existing bidders. So neither the London Humane Society nor the Southwest Middlesex Animal Shelter from bidding on that process as well, just exploring another option. So from the staff's perspective, that is our recommendation, because there is that potential for cost savings. And I think a potentially significant one. But also, as Josh outlined, there are other options that council could pursue, including reissuing a different RFP or direct negotiation with one of the bidders that has already submitted. So we're both here to answer any questions. Happy to help.
Council will take questions. Just identify who the question is going to, whether it's Josh or Amanda. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. Through the mayor to Amanda, what vendor is Thames Centre using in Middlesex Centre?
Thank you, Councillor McGill, through you, Mayor. I will admit, off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with the vendor Thames Centre is using. I do know that Middlesex Centre, I believe, is using Hillside Animal Services, which is, I think, located in Roma.
Okay. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor Schultes.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I thought this was going to be a little bit more straightforward than what it is being presented here. It's pretty convoluted. I think it's crucial that we keep animal control within Southwest Middlesex. So I'd like to move that we move into a 1-year contract with the Southwest Middlesex Animal Shelter, with details still to be worked out with staff to formalize the agreement. Thank you.
Is there a second? Councilor Ring. Questions? One. Josh, from a liability standpoint, where's that put the municipality?
So clearly stated in the municipality's procurement policy and given the value of the contract, the municipality would be free to explore that option. As the councilor mentioned, it could be a 1 year, although we were originally looking for a 3-year contract, but given that it's a relatively the vendor, the municipality, a shorter term agreement, I think would be beneficial, and then with options to extend if performance is there. Staff even considered going back and forth on ideas of potential of a month for the first year, and the services work out, then we have a full 1 year extension, so on and so forth. So as I sort of mentioned, because we've gone through this process 2 full times based on the policy, we're essentially free to pursue whatever direction we want.
We could have a 1 year contract and it could be terminated on consent of either party. That would protect longevity. Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me, I wonder if I can amend that a little bit and put in Josh's recommendation. Did you say a 3-year extension is what you were going to recommend?
Through the mayor and the councilor. So I mentioned that the original contract that we were hoping to award through the original RFP was for 3 years. An option to start would be a month to month, and then potentially look at 1 year extensions, or if performance is there, we can possibly look at the idea of a 2 year extension, and then we're at that 3 year period that we were originally there to look at. It's just options for council.
Sure, I think at the end of 1 year, we would know whether we're going to extend or not, so I'd be comfortable with having a 3-year extension.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And we have to, all of council have to be cognizant of the protection of the municipality. I'm going to let Amanda go and then Councillor Haggett. Okay?
So I'm good, when you go, I thought you didn't say.
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to add a comment to, for clarity on that motion, if I may, Deputy Mayor. We can certainly work with the Southwest and Middlesex Animal Shelter to work on coming up with a contract. I do wonder if it would be amenable to council to direct us to work with the Southwest Middlesex Animal Shelter and with legal to prepare a draft contract for that to then come back to council for consideration before, reconsideration before award. So the terms and conditions and everything could be approved by council if you're okay with that.
Absolutely, I actually thought that that's what we were going to do, but the clarifications were right.
I think that would be extremely beneficial for the animal shelter as well. Josh, tough question here. Sure. You got your seatbelt on? Okay. Sustainability, does that ever come into the question? Sustainability.
So yes, with the original RFP and subsequently the new submissions, we look at the organization as a whole, the experience that they've had, the facilities that they have, and the condition, and how long those facilities will stay operational for, something that's considered by staff, and that was looked upon. Yes.
All right. Okay, council, there's a mover and a seconder on this motion. Chair will call it. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Oh, yes, is there someone there? No. You bet. Hi, you bet. City Cochran, please go ahead.
It's McFadden, sorry.
McFadden, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. May I speak? Sure. Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
So thank you for letting me speak. I want to take this out of the political and financial forum that you're in and bring it to you from a personal taxpayer. And the whole thing around grow locally, shop locally, do business locally. We have a family that have moved here, rooted themselves, gone through lots of hurdles to become established. They've bought their property, their in-laws have bought property, the mother's moving to town. That creates a lot in our community in terms of giving back. I ended up in Glencoe 46 years ago because my late husband was transferred here with the OPP. We've been rooted here. I've been rooted here for 46 years. I've been involved in minor ball. I've been involved in community services. I love this community. I believe in investing in my community. As a taxpayer, I've had 2 very negative experiences with the London Humane Society, personal ones. And just recently, as of a month ago, a good friend of mine, not third party, but right to my face, telling me about a horrible experience they had trying to surrender a cat at the London Humane Society. And I can go into details if you have questions, but the end result was they took the cat to Windsor. And the Windsor Humane Society embraced the cat and had it was injured, so they had it fixed, they had it mended, and they put it up for adoption at no cost. So I have a very bad taste in my mouth for the service that's been provided for me as a taxpayer and a dog owner. And I can also say that I've had several personal experiences with Jody and her husband in the business there. And I can't tell you anything that went wrong or any complaints or anything negative. And maybe it's just me, maybe I'm getting preferential treatment, but she texts me back when I text her about animals. I'm donating to this shelter. Many people, if you go on the website, you will see the people in our community, Wardsville people, Appin people, Glenville people, donating to Southwest Middlesex Animal Shelter because we support it. I encourage you to look at their page and see the people that support them. Anybody have any questions for me?
No, well, I think we share the same sentiments. We believe we always look local first.
Absolutely.
But, it's just a process, Sue, that we have to go through. We have what they call a fiduciary responsibility to protect the corporation. I know that sounds cold, but it's just part of our job. But in all our decision making, we certainly strive to shop local.
Right, and you're not saving taxpayers money when they have to drive to Windsor.
That's right.
Right? And yeah, okay.
Okay.
I can go on.
All right. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Is the motion clear, everyone? Okay. We did? Okay. All right. Glasses on here. Okay, we are at finance, asset management plan update. Matt, are you gonna walk us through this?
Thank you, Mayor. I promise this will be a short one. Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, the report is presented for informational purposes. You've seen selected consultants work tonight. We look forward to working with Level Inc., Brian Kavanaugh, over the next several months to achieve the compliance goal for July 1st, 2025 deadline.
Okay. Recommendations before you, Council. Are there any questions for that?
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay, thanks very much, Councilor Myers. Is there a seconder? Councilor Haggett. Last call for questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe this question is for Mac or whoever wants to take it. I know that we will be talking about this, we didn't get it done. Once we are all up to speed this June, will we be able to do this ourselves in the future? Or will we still need to? I don't want to put anybody on the spot here. You can think about it and maybe come back another time.
Let me attempt. At no time is asset management a sole person's expectations to bear. Okay, everybody involved throughout the company will be needed to make sure that this stays going once we have it up and running as of this July. And that goes from everyone, because we're always going to have to make sure that our assets are looked at, and therefore, the feet on the ground are going to have to tell us about the culverts, whether there's an issue there or not. Everyone in the head office here, we all have to keep up with the work that's involved with asset management. And those around the horseshoe, you all have to be up to snuff with the governance that comes with that. So, yes, I believe we can continue on ourselves, but at the same time, we may still have the need for expert guidance. So in that's where we may have to reach out.
Sounds fair.
Right.
Go ahead, Amanda. Yeah, Chair recognizes Amanda.
Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Chair, and Mac's completely correct. It is a group effort, and when the whole municipality will need to work together, it involves everyone's expertise. There is legislation that specifically had these deadlines, including the July 1st, 2024 date, as well as the July 1st, 2025 date were included. And I do think there is another deadline coming, but I'm not sure what it is offhand. But the province could at any time, of course, update legislation as well. So I think, as Max said, if it's a simple, maintenance of the existing information that we have, that is something we can likely absorb internally for the most part. But where there might be new regulations or new requirements, new policies to be developed, we may need some additional assistance in the future. And as Max said, we'll continue to monitor as time goes on.
In addition, to rolling, our delegation with the Minister of Infrastructure, there was full transparency. They were advised that we were a little behind, and they said that they had the patience to wait until we got it. Okay. Recommendations before you. Mover and seconder. Oh, we haven't moved it. Who moved? Okay, got it. And who's the seconder? Okay. All in favor? Carried. Yeah. Okay, we've got that. Public Works. Eight four one, we have James Lethbridge Drain, section 78. Andrew, this looks like it might be you.
Yes, sir. If council remembers from the January 15th council meeting, council accepted the request under section 78 of Drainage Act pertaining to the James Lethbridge Drain. Primarily, the oldest portion being from 1954, an updated portion being enclosed in 1978. Since the last council meeting, property owners within the drainage, or within the watershed, received notice that this was an issue and that this was going to be looked at. And also Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority was notified. So at this point, I think to save time, the most reasonable thing is that to point out that the recommendation is that the council appoints Straight & Associates under section 78 of the Drainage Act for range 2 south lots 20 and 21 to initiate the reconstruction of the James Lethbridge Drain. And I am open to questions if there are any.
Thank you, Andrew. Council, any questions? You wish to post Andrew to the chair? Seeing none, Don, go ahead.
Oh, he's going to move it.
Okay, Don moves it. Okay, a second. Councilor Vink, questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
8.5, community services and facilities, none. 8.6, fire, none. 8.7, building, none. 8.8, planning, none. I have not been advised of any notice of the motion. Correspondence and petitions. We have received this from Strathmore Caradoc, a request for the appointment of a municipality of Southwest Middlesex member for the 4th concession drain 2025 Board of Revision. The recommendation is before you, and coming up with a name, Mark, would you be interested in representing Southwest Middlesex on that?
Okay,
Okay, the chair will move that Councillor McGill will take the representation. Is there a second from that? Councillor Vink, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Council, very much. Unfinished business, Amanda, read me there, but I don't think there's any. New business, we have, well, we're done with that, supported the one item in the consent agenda. County Council updates, thank you, Mark, for providing that report. And the recommendation of the Council of Municipality of Southwest Middlesex received the Rural Ontario Municipal Association Commission report by Councillor McGill for information. All in favor? Carried. Oh, is there a mover and second for that yet? Okay, second. Dawn, thank you. All in favor again? Carried. Announcements. Are there any? We're very pleased to have presented Mike Ross and Steve Ashton with those awards tonight and recognition. They're certainly very deserving of both of them. And Southwest Middlesex has been and is being enriched by their presence. Closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act. The recommendation is that the regular meeting of council of the municipality of Southwest Middlesex be temporarily adjourned at 7:37 to permit the holding of a meeting in closed session for the purposes of section 239, advice that is subject to solicitor client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, legal notification, and then inclusive of that, a proposed or pending acquisition of specific land by a municipality or local school board, or personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Can I have a motion to go into committee of the whole? Following this success, I'll hand the gavel over to the deputy mayor. Moved by Councillor McGill, seconder. McCollum, Councillor McCollum. All in favor?
No.